Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I'm delighted to be called in this debate, and I want to talk about three areas in my 7 minutes: the economy, general practice, and skills and schools. And yesterday I was delighted to get the very good news from the House of Commons Library that unemployment has fallen by 1,725 in the year to April in my constituency. Now, every one of those people is an individual, everyone able to contribute to a household budget, everyone able to help with the family finances. And sometimes I don't think we realise what an economics job miracle this country has been over the years. In the middle of the last decade, the United Kingdom was creating more jobs than the whole of the rest of the European Union put together. That is an amazing jobs creation record. And the fact that the economy is still enabling those jobs to be produced at the moment after the COVID shock and after the Ukraine shock is quite incredible, and I pay tribute to all the businesses, large and small, and to government policy for enabling that to happen. And of course, what is happening in Ukraine is having a big consequence on people's cost of living. One thinks of those storehouses in Odessa full of grain that could go around the world to feed hungry people and would help grain prices come down, would help us here in the United Kingdom, but because of the evil action of the Putin regime, that is not allowed to happen. Ukraine also the world's fourth largest producer of ammonia and fertiliser, having a huge impact on the problems that our farmers are facing at the moment. I'm also acutely conscious that housing, particularly in my constituency and large parts of the South East, is a mammoth part of people's outgoings. There's a lot of talk at the moment, quite understandably, about increasing energy costs and increasing food costs. In my part of the world, it is not unusual for people's rent to be 2/3 of their income. That is simply not sustainable. And it is really tough for people on lower incomes in high housing cost areas. We do need to confront that. I know the Prime Minister gets that. I know the Levelling Up Secretary and Housing Secretary gets that. And that, in my view, is really at the heart of poverty issues in large parts of the south of the country. And if we were to build more zero-energy bill homes, as the British architect Bill Dunster, OBE, in fact the architect of Portcullis House, if that doesn't put you off him, there's my colleagues who've got offices there. But for years, he has pointed out it is possible to build homes which sell back more energy to the grid than they draw down. So you don't have gas and electricity bills. So that is fantastic for our greenhouse gas emission targets and for this huge energy shock that is causing so much worry and concern to many of our constituents. And I know we are reducing carbon in new homes by 70%, but I would encourage the government to go further and faster in this area. And I was very pleased to see the Chancellor say yesterday, I note the £22 billion, I note the £83 billion in debt interest, but I was pleased to hear the Chancellor say yesterday, and I quote, "We will do more to support the most vulnerable." That is absolutely right. I look forward to those details, particularly perhaps for the disabled and pensioners. And given the Chancellor's record and how he's got the country through COVID, I know he will not disappoint in that area. The second, briefly, yes, of course I will.
Does he agree with me that the statistic that emerged yesterday, which is that we have actually increased the number of people with disabilities in employment to 1.3 million after setting a 1 million target in 2017, we've achieved that target within 5 years, is an astonishing result of hard work by many people, including, of course, the applicants themselves?
Well, I'm so grateful to my honourable friend for making that point. There's a wonderful Indian employer in my constituency. He calls his disabled staff differently abled. And I think that's a wonderful way to put it, actually, because they have amazing gifts to bring. And often employers will say they are some of the most hardworking and the most dedicated, which is why our Disability Confident campaign is so important and clearly has been successful. And so I thank my honourable friend for raising that point. The second area I want to raise, and I'm particularly focusing on the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill and what it needs to do, is the appalling difficulty that many of us have on both sides of the House in getting sufficient additional general practice capacity where there are huge new housing developments. And we are a country, in my view, that generally does public administration well. I have rarely come across a child that doesn't have a school place, for example. We plan many things well in this country because we have brilliant civil servants, we have brilliant local authority officers. We generally do this well. I think a major exception, I have to say, which I really would ask the front bench please to note and please to take back across government, is that doing this for general practice is not working well. It is, at the moment, a sort of alphabet soup of different places you can go to try and get a health hub or extra GP surgeries. You could try Section 106. You could try community infrastructure levy. You might be lucky with a housing infrastructure fund. Maybe your local authority will come to the rescue, or perhaps even capital from the government, from the Treasury to the Department of Health and Social Care. It is complicated, it is uncertain, and we are not serving our constituents well by making sure that this general practice capacity is available. I've got 14,000 new houses being built. That will help with the housing issues I spoke about earlier. But that's over 36,000 new residents coming to my area, and we must have the general practice capacity for that. And I will keep campaigning on that issue until it's resolved. Turning to the schools bill, lots of good things in schools and indeed in skills that this government is doing, and never has that been more important. And I am very pleased to be able to report to my friends on the front bench that the Church of England is particularly pleased with the schools bill. And why is that significant? Because the Church of England, with the Roman Catholic Church, they actually run 1/3 of the schools in England, so they're quite a big stakeholder in this area. And the Bishop of Durham and Nigel Genders, our Chief Education Officer, have said how pleased they are. They have extremely good cooperation with the Secretary of State for Education. They are delighted with it. They think they can do a lot more together, and I'm very pleased to be able to report that. I like what we're doing on lifetime skills. T-levels are really important. I think there's a little bit more work to do on apprenticeships. And what we're doing on employer representative bodies is absolutely right. I have a particular issue with CNC operators in my area, engineering businesses really screaming to get hold of them. I have the Skills Minister coming to Houghton Regis on the 6th of June, working very closely with the Bedford College Group, and we must press through. These are jobs that pay around £48,000 a year. It is not right that we can't get people to do these jobs, and I'm looking forward to the Skills Minister's visit.